Because of recent events around the world, a lot of Christians have increasing interest in Islam. And the concern, of course, is how do we reach Muslims as evangelical Christians with the gospel? And I'm joined today by Abdu Murray to help me answer that question. Abdu, you're the founder, or co-founder, I should say, and president of a ministry called Embrace the Truth International. The goal of the ministry is to reach out to non-believers with the truth of the gospel. You also are an adjunct speaker for Ravi Zacharias International Ministries. You're a lawyer by training with a law degree from the University of Michigan. You grew up as a Muslim. You were a Muslim apologist of sorts as a young man. You converted to Christianity when you were 27 years old after a 9-year journey. And we were talking a little bit in the past episode about just your family's reaction when you converted to Christianity. And, you know, I had really somewhat of a traumatic experience for me. I grew up with my father as a Muslim and converted to Christianity when I was 23. And my father was extremely furious when I converted. In fact, he disavowed me, and it fractured our relationship. And we never were able to reconcile. And my father died a Muslim, and he died, and we were estranged. And so there was a real cost for me to come to faith in Christ in terms of the relationship with my family. Help us understand why that reaction exists when conversions happen from Islam to Christianity.
Well, it's an important aspect to understand, especially from a Western perspective, because individualism is so stressed here in the West. But even in the West, when you have Muslim families, or even Hindu or Baha'i families, whatever it might be, individualism isn't as stressed. It's a communal community. It's a communal way of thinking about life. And a friend, Sam Salomon, who is also a former Muslim, he kind of describes it this way. If you were to draw a circle with a dot in the middle of it, the circle in the West is you. The dot in the middle is religious expression or identity. But in the East and in the Middle East, it's exactly the opposite. The circle is religious identity through community, and the dot is you. It surrounds you. It saturates who you are. So even those who are nominally religious, they're really actually identifying in that religious way, and that's part of the culture. So when you change your worldview, when you change your religious system, what you're really doing is basically telling your community, I don't want you, I don't need you. At least that's the perception. And so that is considered a betrayal of who you are in the community as well, and it's one of the worst betrayals you can ever have. That's why the reaction is so high. Now, growing up that way with that strong sense of attachment, it's really a beautiful attachment, it really is, and you're sort of tugging at it and beginning to tear at it, that's a tremendous cost to pay. I mean, that's a complete worldview shift. For me, it was like standing on the edge of a cliff and looking out at it and saying, all the evidence for Christianity is there. It's not just empty air, but it sure feels like that. And if I jump off this cliff, I'm going to be committing an identity suicide of sorts. I will stop being the person I was before, this Muslim apologist who was had a sort of a name in the community, or someone who was knowledgeable about Islam, and I cared about it deeply. I would stop being that in my own eyes and in the eyes of others. And that is tremendous, to lose that. It's dying to yourself. And of course, Jesus talks specifically about that we have to do that, which makes it all the more interesting because this is a Middle Easterner. Jesus was a Middle Easterner saying that. Mm-hmm. And so that statement is radical all by itself in that context. So that's what the cost really is. And that's why it took me 9 years, Fuzz. It wasn't because the answers were hard to find. It's because the answers were hard to accept.